So are things in Pennsylvania going to go an exciting direction in this election?
Well, let me see. I think we're pretty solid on our governor's race, but we're beginning to lose some distance in the Senate race. So that's one that we have to pay attention to. And yeah, so it really depends on turnout, and generally speaking, if we get the same type of turnout that we generally do in a midterm, we may be in trouble, at least on the Senate side. And
is there a big effort to get out the vote going on?
There's the usual effort, but frankly, it's all about women in the suburbs getting out to vote. I mean, that's our only chance. Literally, it's like the standard things that keep people from being engaged, and our opponents being. I'm talking about the Republicans at this point, being engaged, are what they usually are in a midterm.
Yeah,
our vote is usually down, their vote can be up. But the one thing that's keeping us buoyant is Roe v. Wade.
right. How do you vote in Pennsylvania? Only at the ballot? I mean, at the precinct?
In the urban areas. So, for example, if Philadelphia and Pittsburgh vote the way they usually do, then we win statewide. Because there's more, voting power in just those two urban areas than there is in the rest of the state. And the suburbs are the key to the vote in the midterm. The city of Pittsburgh will vote, predominantly Democratic, as will the Philadelphia city area, but the suburbs are the key to the election.
Andy doesn't really bring in the notion of suburbs in this whole study, does he?
No, and it's and the suburbs are kind of moving into the rural areas. Obviously, I mean they're a mix. Some of the suburbs of Pittsburgh, for example, are rural areas. They are rural, even though they are considered suburbs of Pittsburgh as an urban area. Basically, they are substantially rural. I mean, it doesn't take, for example, I can drive 10 minutes outside of town and really move into what is much more Trump-based, areas. But those are suburbs of Pittsburgh. So, yeah, but thanks, Sharon.
Well, let's keep praying about this.
No, I mean, we're still leading in both the governor and the Senate race. So, technically, but it's a lead that is not going to hold if our get out the vote situation is low. So we'll see.
Well, I think the nation has its eyes on Pennsylvania for all of those reasons. So hopefully that'll make a difference.
As usual, I think we delivered. We literally had to fight for every vote, in the presidential election. I mean, we were watching over the whole situation, because who knows what's going to happen once, some of the secretaries of state get taken over by people who don't want elections to be
won by the voters.
Exactly.
And then in Arizona, you got people in the corner shooting at folks at the precinct. That's what I heard. Jim?
Yeah,
we carry guns. There haven't been shooting much so far. But it gets back to that, you know, that grief that people were saying. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine how an election right now in this country can feel much like this miraculous inventory. It feels like it's just re-emphasizing the divide, and it, you know, it does feel like, I don't know what to say.
Well, by 2040, I mean, this is my assessment or my analysis, but, you know, and it's not about immigration at this point.
Mm-mm.
The fact that within our existing demographic by 2040, you know, there's going to be a majority person of color
Population.
in this country. And
Yeah.
that is what is driving a lot of the, in my opinion, that is what is driving a lot of the angst among white folks, you know, and things are going to be changing. I mean, they're changing already fairly dramatically in many ways. You know, the mythology that white people have upheld in this culture is quickly coming down. That's why you have a massive, you know, fight around what can be, you know, what can be taught in our schools, critical race theory, you know, getting at the real history of what has occurred in our country. Really understand. I mean, I went to a conference over the weekend where a Navajo presenter just talked. I mean, this thing just really hit me at the center in such a powerful way that I just, you know,
Wow.
because he made the case that Abraham Lincoln was the most genocidal leader in our nation's history. And he made the case in such a way that I totally, you know, said, man, I never knew any of this. Or at least you know, I had been trained and had received information in a completely different way. Not that I still have admiration for Lincoln in a lot of ways, but these other realities about him have just really shook me in terms of like, why didn't I know those things? I mean, I consider myself, you know, I've read a lot, and those things were never a part of my understanding of the history of Lincoln.
Yeah.
It just bothered me. And then I had to, you know, and then he made other cases. He just talked about the Constitution. He talked about, you know, he talked about Lincoln. He talked about manifest destiny and kind of how this country literally justified its process. I mean, all of these things are, you know, obviously, you know, we're aware of them through Zinn's work and others who have written alternative histories. But now we're in a place where a lot of the things that we have kind of staked our claim as a you know, this exceptional democracy,
Yeah.
it just doesn't stand. It's a house of cards when you begin to look deeply at the things that are going, you know, at the history you've never been taught. So so that puts a lot of people into turmoil. It puts me into turmoil. You know, I'd like to think about my culture in a very different way. But you know, I have to rethink. And where does that put you? I mean, it just puts you in a place where things really, and I can understand how, you know, with my background, and with my history, I have a propensity to jump into that and to hear it. But what would it be like for someone who, you know, that's their mother's milk?
Well, and it's also here. It's
Mhm.
I keep thinking of that country song from Billy Ray Cyrus, "Achy Breaky Heart." Don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart. I just don't think you'll understand. And if you tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, it might blow up and kill this man. And there's, I was saying earlier, there's a billboard out in
Mhm.
the fairground says Democrats hate you, with Uncle Sam pointing his finger.
Yeah.
And how to get to that, how to allow that depth of emotion doesn't work in commercials. It doesn't. Maybe we should study Lamentations of Jeremiah next time to get a hold of this. Yeah.
No, I mean, one of the things that was a Navajo presenter, by the way, his name is Mark Charles, wrote a book, that is, I mean, I'm afraid to read it at this point.
Oh my.
Literally, I mean, well, he made such a powerful case, and he made it in just a very,
Mild.
this is, think about this for a second. He took the history of the church, basically, from Jesus forward, and he explained how the doctrine of discovery, became how the church got to the place of issuing the doctrine of discovery, which is the total antithesis to the
Gospel.
life of Jesus. The total antithesis.
Yeah.
How could we get from there to there? And he showed the process of how we got from there to there. Now, of course, but he made it in such a way. I mean, this is the first time it just really just pounded me personally. I mean, it's tough to think about these things, but when you look at it, I mean, it's just undeniable that, I mean, here's the history. Here's what actually happened. Here's what we did. It's not like we have to, and we can, and it's still going on. We all know it's happening even today. And even this like reparations thing, that was like 70 years ago. And so that I'm working on, and that of the church that had their land and their church taken away from them. It and all the data is there. It's like, here's exactly what happened. And the leaders currently, our city council, city planning commission, the mayor, and everybody, has more or less said, yes, it was, that was a total tragedy. And the whole purpose of it was to decimate Black power in the city of Pittsburgh, which it did. Absolutely. And very directly. So, but the name of the book is Unsettling Truths: The Ongoing Dehumanizing Legacy of the Doctrine of Discovery. And it's by Mark Charles and Soong Chan Ra, SOONG CHAN, and then RAH.
Which is not a Navajo name.
No.
No. But Soong Chan Ra is an evangelical scholar. Both of these folks come out of the evangelical tradition. All right. So they're both, and Soong Chan Ra has written the book on lament. That's his primary book. So, and they connect, this work on the doctrine of discovery and the ongoing process of upholding white supremacy. They connect that to lament. That this is what we as the people of God and the Christian church need to be doing today, is staying in lament. You know,
Yeah.
so it just means not running away. All the things I would like to do and I feel like doing. Because even though like I have a Filipino father and a mother who spent 3 years in a Nazi concentration camp, you know, I have so you know, they told me, my dad and my mom said to me, you do not need to learn about your Filipino or German culture.
Right.
Or in this country, you learn this country's game and you win at it.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what they told me. Because they had suffered so much, you know, that they saw that as the means by which their children would not suffer in the future.
Right.
So
The power is huge. Yeah. Mm.
and that, but all of this kind of brings all, I mean, certainly I am very much into internalized depression and how that works and how internalized white superiority worked in my life. But, you know, all of this kind of really begins to twirl around and you have to, you know, figure out how to, it's literally spun me out of control to a certain extent. I mean, I'm, you know, you try to stay balanced, but when you know, when you really look at the history, like, you know, I'm very familiar with the, you know, how the United States took over the Philippine Islands after 400 years, after 400 years of Spanish domination, we just took over.
Yep.
But we had to kill 250,000 Filipinos to do it.
Yep.
So, but at any rate, I do, you know, this book is unsettling. I mean, the name of the title is, for me, it's right on.
Unsettling truth. Yes.
Unsettling truths.
Wow.
And you can, if you go on YouTube and put in Mark Charles, you know, he's got a number of presentations on YouTube. You could actually see the presentation, you know,
That you saw.
if you want to. And he's done several TED presentations as well.
Hmm.
So he's got a TED presentation that kind of summarizes this, so you can see it on the TED presentation. Kind of get a short version in like about 12 minutes.
Right.
Oh, good. I'd like to, you know, save time and get it real.
Yeah, of course you would, Jim. Of course you would.
Don't we all need a grip for sure? Oh, man.
We really, I mean, there's an awful lot of ways that history and everything is demanding that we become much better people than we imagined was possible, and a much better society.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all this stuff you're talking about was people going, "Oh, this is the right thing to do. This is really good," and it was done by people. Others are going, "Ooh, they're really leaders and stuff like that." Now we're going, the society that is coming into the future, it's going to have to be so much well, and of course, the one we're creating now, you know, is going to be really right.
Oh, yes. One of the things it surprised me, I guess, that when the Pope visited Canada and did his big forgiveness trip, if you will, I'm not saying it well, but it was a deep thing, but he did not retract the Discovery, the Discovery Act. I'm not saying it right, but Doctrine of Discovery. And he was directly asked to do so by all of those chiefs that met with him. And he did not do it. I don't understand that. It could be a simple thing.
the opening line of Unsettling Truths is you cannot discover a land that's inhabited.
You cannot, you cannot discover, right?
Cannot discover a land that's inhabited.
Yeah.
So
So-
now I'm thinking to myself, now you bring up this term discover. This has implications for the practice of inventory.
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
It
absolutely.
does. Yes.
Because the doctrine of discovery is the actual basis for all legal situations connected to the concept of title.
And land. Yeah.
Yeah, in the United States.
Yeah.
That's how we made, and that's why Lincoln, I mean, because you have this Western movement, and the question is, all right, who has title? Who gains title to all of that land?
Well, even the concept of title, see, that is foreign to those who lived here for centuries. And
Believe me, we can't even figure out what it means here in Pittsburgh. It takes, we have 800 vacant lots in my neighborhood. And we do not know, for the vast majority of them, we do not know who holds the title.
because your county doesn't have a record or what?
Doesn't matter. The county has a record, but when you have liens and other things that can be maintained by other jurisdictions, you do not have all the information necessary to actually have to indicate a clean title to the land.
That's a hell of an inventory to have to do.
Absolutely. We tried
Good
to.
Lord.
I was in a course where our whole goal at the University of Pittsburgh, and this was a law school course, our whole purpose was to take care of 5 vacant lots in the Hill District. All right, so our whole purpose was to learn about the vacant lots, learn about the law, about zoning, about regulations, about the law, etc., with regard to our city.
And the records of passing and mortgages and all that, yeah.
And so
Ownership.
the 5 pieces of land that we all chose, that we never in the entire semester got to a place where we could legally take care of that plot. And all we wanted to do was clean it up.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I'm taking a course on earth law
Earth law. Oh,
tomorrow morning, and I'm going to bring this dimension of it up. So what you're saying is, even if we could figure out how to make the doctrine of discovery work, by this point it's so complicated we wouldn't be able to do it anyway.
I'm just saying that the doctrine
or unwork it.
the doctrine of discovery is a mythology upon which our legal structure sits.
Yeah. It's pre-constitution and pre everything. Yeah.
It's not something that's in the past, because you've had legal wordings, I mean, and judgments that have quoted the doctrine of discovery as late as 2010 on major cases.
About 10 years ago, we went to visit friends in England and took a road trip and ended up on the island of Iona in Scotland.
Yeah.
And this was, I think, 2010. And it only been about 15 years ago that anybody on that island, except the laird, could own anything. Well, this is wonderful having it. This conversation is just, I don't know. Well, thank you.
Well, both Unsettling Truths and the book on Lamentations, I think are interesting books to, I mean, the thing about doctrine of discovery just shakes me, because it just, you're, not to say that and he's only saying that stop talking about this being justified by,
Law.
let's just say that we stole it, we killed people to take it, and we colonized folks to take their land. Just tell it like it is. If we could get to the place where we could even tell that truth to ourselves, and then have some kind of like a reconciliation, commission, like they've had in South Africa or other places in the world, we might get to a place where we could actually heal of this. But since we can't, we're on a downward spiral.
Yep. It's interesting.
Yeah, I guess that's that comment about spiritual resources that was early in our session too.
Mm-hmm.
How do you create a social dimension that is deep enough to do that?
My synod actually took a tiny step in this direction, and it's kind of weird, but I think at least they're doing something. I mean, they have decided that every church that closes in our region,
Uh-huh.
the land and the building will be offered to the native
tribe of that area.
people of this area.
Cool. That is something.
Now, of course, a lot of people don't even want to take the land. I mean, a lot of our buildings and land are in places where people don't want it. I mean, except that in this case, it could be an actual real situation in which we're paying it, doing something that actually, for us, it's more like we're finally realizing that there are things that we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is on us.
It's a tiny first step, but there could be more.
Did he talk about the whole, at the beginning of meetings, entertaining that we're meeting in the land of the Duwamish?
Full land acknowledgement. And this was a conference. This was a United Methodist Church conference, summit here in Pittsburgh, anti-racism summit, for the Western Pennsylvania Conference of the United Methodist Church. So, and it was a 3-day conference. So it was, it was very, very interesting conference. They did it both online and in person, so you could do both. And they switched the places. So they did, like, first day it was at a Black congregation in the city, then they moved to a white congregation way out in the suburbs for the second day, and then they moved it to another low-income neighborhood area for the third day. So it was very interesting how they did it in different places and had good I thought a very good conference. But it just shows how how far we have to go.
Oh yeah.
The United Methodist Church did a great job with it, but and what scares me is, it was attended by several hundred people, and I would say that out of the several hundred people, there was probably 2 people under the age of 50.
Oh, that's hard. That's so bad. It's so hard.
Yeah. And I would say the vast majority were in their 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yep.
I saw a little comment on Facebook. This woman, she said, I've got 2 sons, one's 13, one's 11. And so the car needed gas. And so we went to Costco, and I thought, well, I'll show them how to fill the car up with gas. So she did, and the 13-year-old says, I'm never going to do this. I'm not going to have gasoline cars. And the 11-year-old says, Mom, this reminds me of when you showed us how to use a pay telephone.
Those kids are sharp.
It's true. What my daughter and son-in-law have two cars. One's a Tesla and one's a Subaru, but they want to get rid of the Subaru and get another electric, fully electric car. So, gas cars are not long for this world. I mean, if things are continuing in the direction they're going, which is good.
Yeah.
And Karen pointed out she's figured out how to get everything she needs in 5 blocks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is perfect. And I am very proud to say that for 6 days I've been producing energy from my roof.
Oh, cool. Are you in a situation where you give it back to the network yet?
No, I'm grid connected, so energy just goes to the grid. I take energy from the grid, and they just balance
Make
it out.
the difference.
But I'm producing almost 10 kilowatt hours a day. And this is a solar roof. It's not solar panels.
Oh my.
Oh, what's the difference? I mean, I understand the difference between a roof and a panel, but
I have a shingle roof, and it's the shingles themselves that are solar panels. It's the roof shingles themselves, which so my roof, there isn't anything, there's no structure on the roof other than the roof. And then electrical connections from the roof to the inverter.
Is that less expensive or more?
No, it's actually more expensive, but it's
Long.
from a technical standpoint, it is just, the reason I bought it was because a roofer put it on. I believe that eventually all of these roofs will be put on by roofers.
Yeah.
So when you need a new roof now, a roofer will come to you and say, do you want a solar roof? It's going to cost you so much, but you get it. If like right now, this roof is still too expensive. It'll pay itself off in 8 years. But that's only because I get a massive incentive from the government.
Yeah.
Right now, the government paid for 30% of it, and the state sends me a check for the energy I produce on an annual basis.
Wow.
So,
see, we're old-fashioned. We have panels. We got panels, and then the guy across the street, he found a scheme where he rented his roof to somebody who put panels on. And now we got shingles that.
well, if you rent, I mean, it just becomes challenging when you sell your house, but you have to. But we're very happy with. I mean, I'm not happy with the length of time it took. This is the first roof of its kind in Pittsburgh.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
How long is it supposed to last? Forever or nothing?
25, it's guaranteed for 25 years.
Wow.
And the nice thing is that it's designed to produce so much energy. And of course you have it's all hooked up to a website that gives you the full energy production on a daily or hourly basis almost. So you're looking at, you're seeing what you're getting back. It'll be interesting. We'll see our electric prices have really gone up in Pittsburgh over the last few months. I don't know why, but literally it could cut our bill by up to 80% or 90%, our monthly bill. which usually it's in the neighborhood of $150 to $200.
Would, will they reimburse you if you over
Yes. Look,
contribute?
it cost me $20 to be hooked up to the grid. So that I have to pay that
Every time? Sure.
But if I produce more energy than I'm taking from
The grid.
they cut a check for the amount of energy that I'm producing.
Nice.
So,
What happens when there's a hailstorm?
well, these are beautiful because they're like shingles. I mean, this is you know, it's just a roof. There's no damage that can happen. I mean, short of a massive hailstorm that would damage your roof.
Well, there won't be any massive hailstorms because we know what the weather projections are.
Yeah, but there's going to be cold parts of the world too when it gets hot in the wrong places.
I need to stop. I need to stop. You know, attending your Zooms, Jim, because you're just getting me into way too many things.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, that's sad.
That choosing Earth thing that shocked me, and now this, you know, kind of exploring the different pathways of recovering abundance is also leading me into some interesting directions. So
I'm gonna go find Mark Charles. You're
Me too.
on my chain too.
Yeah. Yes, note that you have, and you could sleep well on that tonight, at least.
I'm gonna go eat dinner. Thank you all.
Thank you. Be well.
good night.
Thank you.